From the snowy state of Connecticut to the sun and glitz of the Vegas Strip. This week we're coming to you from the Aria Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. Ever since I was a kid and saw Sugar Ray Leonard fight, I've loved boxing. I was at HBO for 15 years as a feature producer, won a few sports Emmys.
Not bad.
I got to travel the world and tell the great stories of these fighters.
Maybe something of a rooting interest in Alexander among the entire HBO Sports crew here, because Alexander's manager is former HBO Sports producer George Jacobin.
I've managed a fighter, I've worked a fighter's corner, being as close to the action as you can get. My life has revolved around boxing. This is the one and only One Round with George. February 5th was a busy day in boxing. Former welterweight champion Keith one-time Thurman was back in the ring. He faced off against former 140-pound champion Mario Barrios, who was moving up in weight. For being off so long, I thought Thurman looked good, but he is not one-time anymore. There were a few times in the fight it looked like he could take Barrios out, and he didn't. Thurman won a convincing decision. There's no doubt he's back on the scene. I thought he looked good after a long layoff, but will he ever become a champion in this stacked welterweight division? I don't know. Speaking of the welterweight division, it's the long-awaited return of Errol the Truth Spence. Spence is back on April 16th at AT&T Stadium for a unification match with Ordos Ugas. Of course, this is not the fight that most fans want. Most fans want Spence and Crawford to face off, but anytime in boxing there's a unification, I think it's good for boxing. Spence hasn't fought in almost 16 months. He suffered a detached retina while he was training for Manny Pacquiao last summer. Of course, we all know in-step Ugas, who was too tough and too young for the faded legend. On that Thurman Barrios undercard, Fernando Vargas Jr. upped his record to 5-0. I've always been a fan of his father, Fernando Vargas Sr., who was the youngest man to win a title at 154 pounds. Fernando Vargas is one of those fighters that everybody loves. I remember a long time ago when I was with HBO, I got to shoot with him before one of the Mosley fights. He had all his kids at the gym. They were all in the ring. He called them his Cubs. He still calls them his Cubs. It's truly incredible to see them in the ring today, and they show some skill. I'm always going to be a fan of Fernando Vargas Sr. I'm a fan of his son too. That same day in Cardiff, Wales, the GWOAT, Gaethje Shields, easily defended her middleweight crown. She won every minute of every round against Emma Kozin. She did her part in what we hope is a fight later in the year with Savannah Marshall. They had words after the fight. This is definitely a rivalry. It's a grudge match, and hopefully we see it later this year. And on that busy February 5th day on DAZN, Jesse Bam Rodriguez became the youngest champion in the sport today. He's 22 years old. He won the junior bantamweight title over Carlos Cuadras. You gotta love everything that Bam did. He was a late replacement. He stepped up in weight, and he really put everyone on notice who doubted his skills. A fight I'm going to keep talking about until it happens April 30th. Unified lightweight champion Katie Taylor and 7 division champion Amanda the Real Deal Serrano had another press conference, this time in English. Serrano pulled a little bit of gamesmanship. She challenged Taylor to change the fight to 12 3-minute rounds. Taylor declined. Chances are they would not have switched the rules for this fight, but boxing is like the Wild Wild West and anything goes. Again, April 30th cannot get here fast enough. A special shout out to former lightweight champion Robert Easter. Easter was shot 3 times last weekend in a robbery attempt. Doctors are on record saying that he's going to make a full recovery. We all hope you're well soon. And going back in history, February 11th, 1990, 32 years ago, one of the biggest upsets in all of sports history, Buster Douglas knocked out Mike Tyson and became the heavyweight champion of the world. He dominated most of that fight except for the 8th round when Tyson landed that uppercut, almost ended the fight. But 2 rounds later, it was over and there was a new champion. What I remember most about this fight is that I was in college. On the track team, a bunch of us were at someone's house watching the fight. As the rounds went on, more and more people crowded around the TV, all Douglas fans. I was the only Tyson fan in the house, and what we saw was one of the biggest upsets of all time. That's the bell. My time is done. Let's do this again next week. That exhilarating 1 round with me is over. Now you can go to my YouTube page. You can like the content, you can subscribe to the page, and there is more coming soon.